EU4 1.34 is around the corner, and we are going to be discussing today the mission trees for Norway, as well as the revamped Scandinavia, and when the next patch is going to be released. I've got some information about the release date that I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in. I'm not saying it now, I'm not saying it at the end of the video, it's going to be somewhere in between, so make sure you watch the entire thing, because there's a lot of revelations in this video that a lot of people are going to really enjoy. And also guys, I really want to thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to me. I never imagined that I would actually be able to do this full-time, and right now I am doing full-time YouTube and Twitch, and a big chunk of that is because of all the people that have been supporting me on Patreon as well as on Twitch, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. On the 14th of June, they released the revamped mission tree for Norway, and it's not just the mission tree, there's a lot of things that they added in this that are absolutely amazing. They've also rebalanced some of the stuff in the previous dev diary, so keep an eye out for what I'm going to mention about that, especially the Carolean units. They started off with a little bit of a history note here about the crown of Norway and Denmark and how it was intertwined and how the diplomatics of that region worked. Now, the mission tree for Norway itself is absolutely amazing, and unlike the mission tree for Denmark and the one for Sweden, the Norwegian one actually focuses a lot on navies and the colonial world. Norway is going to be a colonial superpower with a lot of missions revolving around that particular area. So at the start you have three themes. The main one is to gain independence from Denmark, and then you place your own monarch on the Danish throne, as well as colonization and internal missions. You can see that clearly here with liberty for Norway and then win our independence. Later on you get a Norway-Denmark, which happens after you got the PU on the Danes, and you get a PU restoration CB on them, so rest assured that is included. Pretty much the same thing as with the Swedish independence missions. The mission Norwegian allies can be completed by having two rivals or enemies of Denmark have 100 opinion of you, and you can request various stuff from them. You can request manpower, military points, ducats, or you can just choose to fight the Danes by yourself without any of their support, and then you get the massive buff that the Swedes get, literally the same as for the Swedes. Now we also see from the perspective of the nations that you request support from, they lose manpower if they choose to support Norway. Once you enact the Liberty for Norway mission, you get your stability back, and you get 30 legitimacy as well. And then the Win Our Independence mission gives you the Restoration of Union CB on Denmark, which gives you a great modifier until the end of the game, +1 advisors and -15 advisor cost reduction. As well as after completing the Norway-Denmark mission, you do not require admin tech 20 to form Scandinavia. You can do it as soon as you have this mission enacted, so technically you can form Scandinavia in the first 20 years of the game as Norway now. After you gained your independence, you can also get your claims on Orkney, and that gives a super special event which spawns in the nation of Gaeldom, releases them in your Orkney provinces, and they become a march of your country, as well as they get cores on the entirety of the northern part of Scotland, as well as you get +1 Diplo relations until the end of the game again. So that's the second great permanent modifier that we get for the Norwegians. A little bit more history lesson from PDX here. Norway was especially badly affected by the Black Death, and a lot of its nobility died out to the plague, which means that there's a lot of Danish nobles in the court. So you start with two privileges that you have to get rid of: noble courts and Danish nobility. They're fairly easy to get rid of, but you will be losing a lot of stability, so keep that in mind in the process of getting rid of these debuffs. Moving on to the colonial missions. Once you get the maps of Greenland, you discover all of North Atlantic and Greenland areas, so you can start colonizing the North American continent before anybody else can. And then you get a special event trigger in where you just need to have some units stationed in Greenland without even sending a colonist, just those units sent them to sit there. You get an event trigger, and you have three outcomes: either gain some settlers, and then eventually these settlers make the two provinces full provinces, or if you're really lucky, you can get those two as as full provinces from the moment that the event triggers. So essentially you start with all of Greenland colonized, and it's gonna be for some reason Icelandic culture, not Norwegian, so keep that in mind. But with Greenland colonized, it also means that you directly can colonize the New World, and you can do this super fast. I'm talking about first 10 years of the game having colonies in the New World, which is pretty insane. After you get the colony of Greenland and a whole new world, the rest of these missions obviously give out various bonuses that help colonize the New World. One of the big bonuses that you get for that is the colonial range plus 33% increase, which will be amazing. It essentially means you can even reach the Caribbeans by hopping over your colonies before the Portuguese reach the Caribbeans. You also get the mountain expansion privilege, which lowers the development cost penalty in mountains, highlands, and hills by 50%. Another privilege you can get is the Leidan conscription that offers 50% marine force limit. And remember that you also get another 25% marine force limit from the boarding policy that the Norwegians have, so 75% of your army can be marines. And with the extra sailor speed recovery bonuses that you get as well, it means that you can have an army that is half marines, half regular infantry. So it's kind of like having two manpower pools essentially. And also by doing the expand the Royal Navy, your marines get minus 10 shock damage received. Remember that they start by default with plus 10 shock damage received, so now marines are literally the same like regular infantry, except they embark and disembark from transports a lot faster than regular units, so they're perfect for island hopping or just naval invasions. Restore the infrastructure is gonna ask that you develop your provinces to at least 10 development, and then you get the events that let you seek iron and copper in the mountains. Essentially, you kind of get a chance to get some special bonuses from this, or you even get a chance to make a province a gold producing province, so you can spawn gold in the Scandinavian mountains, which is gonna make them really strong economically in the early part of the game. You also can upgrade your government to an empire super fast, and this also offers 25% stab cost reduction modifier until the end of the game, or until you switch over from a Norwegian culture to another culture. They also mentioned they're changing some things to the Carolean units, which they also recognize are very powerful as they are right now. So one of the major changes is the fact that they get minus 33 land force limit from the elopement system. And the bonuses that they have is 10% shock damage and minus 15% morale damage received. On the 21st of June, they showed us the Scandinavian mission tree. And now take note, guys, the Scandinavian mission tree is different based on the country that forms it. There's actually 4 mission trees. If you form Scandinavia as Sweden, Denmark, Norway, you get the bottom part of the mission tree different for each of those tags. And if you form Scandinavia as a country that is not any of those 3, then you get a completely different mission tree altogether. So you can see here the bottom part of the mission tree. If you form it as Sweden, it revolves around refining your Carolean units, getting claims on the HRE, as well as you get Norwegian sailors and Danish shipbuilding. So essentially, whichever one of the countries you form this nation as, you kind of get the bonuses from the other 2 countries, namely Denmark, Norway, if you form it as Sweden, once you form Scandinavia. The most powerful out of all the things here is the fact that Sweden gains 100 power projection forever. This is probably the most insane thing out of the entire dev diary right now. So Sweden, whenever they form Scandinavia as Sweden, until the end of the game, they will always have 100 power projection. What? Not only that, but they also get governing capacity plus 15%, and all Germanic culture provinces do not give any debuffs. It's basically as if they were accepted cultures, even though you don't accept them. This one mission here, Handle the Empire, which is the first one out of the Swedish specific missions, is insane. It's actually freaking insane. You can also get the Vasa, which is the most famous ship in out of Swedish history, because, you know, was a massive ship that that they built that was too big for its own good, and it was basically sunk as soon as it got out of the harbor. I'm not sure it even made it out of the harbor. If you already had a ship that was named the Vasa, you get the Vasa II, essentially. And you also get the expanded Carolean recruitment that gives you 25% more Carolean infantry, land maintenance -5, and until the end of the game, morale damage +15 for the Caroleans. The special Hapa Pikiwiki mercenary company also got a bit of a buff. Essentially, they don't cost any army professionalism whenever you recruit them. And look at these stats here, boys. Look at these absolutely insane stats. 100% cavalry, 25% movement speed increased, fire and shock damage. Holy mother of freaking Schnitzeldorf, man. Next up, if you form Scandinavia as Denmark, this is what you get. Completely different mission tree here. Focuses a lot more on both expanding in Europe and expanding outside of Europe, I guess. Some of the highlights of the Denmark mission tree is the fact, well, the Denmark Scandinavian mission tree is the fact that you get trade steering 20% and trade company governing cost 25% reduction, which is great. I mean, the trade steering, if you mix this in with the trade company special building and with a few other policies, you can have the greatest trade nation in the game right here, Denmark. The military question mission here gives you this permanent modifier. Either you get mercenary discipline +10%, or you get discipline overall +2.5, manpower +15, land maintenance -5, and so on. Obviously go for the second option, not the mercenary. This is pretty obvious, I'd say, and it is ridiculously strong. It does mean that you will never be able to get mercenary companies anymore if you go for the second option. However, in single player, not multiplayer, single player, after the 1500s, it's not worth getting the mercenaries. There's no point even having this penalty here, because any good player is not going to be hiring mercenaries after the 1500s. They're going to have more than enough manpower and a strong enough regular army to deal with any situation. Norway gets the biggest addition to the mission tree once they form Scandinavia. 17 missions, and look at these bad boys here. Incan Conquest, Rio Grande, dominate North America, control South America. You can tell easily that a lot of these basically focus on controlling the New World, but you also have control of African lands, and you also have expansion into the Baltic, dealing with the Sami people, and expanding the Ledang. So that's the privilege we got from before, if you remember. Dominating both of the north and south part of the New World. You get trade steering until the end of the game, global tariffs, trade power, and again global tariffs, plus 50% global tariffs altogether. So having the entirety of the New World as your colonies, and with these modifiers, means you're going to get thousands of ducats from there. And then the expansion of the Ledang means you get another 5% discipline for Marines only. Okay, that means Marines, half your army is going to have 5% extra discipline. Norwegian Marines is definitely a playthrough I will be going for. The last mission, the Kingdom of the Sea, offers a permanent 20% goods produced modifier and the ability to get 0.5 army professionalism whenever you hire an admiral. Wow, that is a super strong mission right there. If you form Scandinavia as none of these three nations, then you get this generic Scandinavian mission tree. Well, it's not really generic because it's still a brand new mission tree, and it basically is similar to that of the German Empire whenever you form Germany in the late game. It essentially has 4 branches here, with the bigger reward being the fact that you also can get the permanent +100 power projection from this generic Scandinavian mission tree, as well as trade company investment cost -20%, building cost reduction 10%, 1 extra diplomat, -3 global unrest. Not really amazing, but still definitely pretty impressive. Got some new ideas for the Scandinavian nations. Well, we have discipline +5, manpower recovery speed 33%, morale of navies +20%, marines +25% extra. So if you get the Scandinavian ideas as Norway, you have 100% marine force limit. Wow, okay. Cavalry fire +1 is super strong as well, and cavalry power, that means cavalry combat ability, as well as infantry combat ability +15%. They also nerfed the basic Carolean units a little bit more, so now they get morale damage +10 and regiment drill loss -20, so they removed the shock damage, replaced it with the drill loss. So morale damage +10, but because of the mission bonus, you actually get morale damage +20 25, and yes, they've been nerfed and under-nerfed for quite a few times in the past 2 dev diaries, which kind of tells me that they might still revisit the Caroleans before they release this patch. They've also redone the privileges for the Caroleans, so they can also get an extra shock damage plus 15% from this one, so they're still ridiculously strong. So they can eventually get 15% shock damage, 25% morale damage, and the regiment drill loss minus 20%. That's way more than any of the current special units in the game. So they say next week we will take a look into the region on the other side of the Baltic Sea, which essentially means that they are redoing the Lithuanian mission tree, because the only area in the Baltic Sea that we haven't seen a mission tree for is Lithuania. Like, it's literally, we've done Livonians, we've done the Prussians, and the Poles are not in the Baltic. It's the Lithuanians. So it's obvious that it's going to be Lithuania getting a brand new mission tree, so I'm really excited for that. But anyway, this is the second highlight, obviously. The main highlight is the fact that Paradox by mistake actually told us the release date of this DLC. And there's no actual leak or anything like that. Don't worry, no developers said anything in the comments. But here's how I know when the DLC is coming out. I'm gonna be attending PDXCon 2022 on the 2nd of September, and I was going through the event list, and I realized very quickly that we have Wiki 3 Early Access gameplay, we have Hearts of Iron 4 DLC gameplay, the Italian mission tree DLC that's coming out, and a few other events for CK3, some stuff for Stellaris, but there's no mention of EU4 Northern Lords DLC early access gameplay or anything of the sort, which essentially means that the DLC is going to come out before PDXCon 2022. Now, when is it going to come out? I strongly suspect that it's going to be within a month, because we only have 1 or 2 more dev diaries remaining. So usually with the dev diaries that they've had before in the previous DLCs, after they release the main highlight of that DLC, in this case that would be Scandinavia and Sweden, usually it's 1 or 2 more dev diaries in which they show the minor stuff and whatever else, and then they release the actual DLC with a little bit of extra testing and everything. Paradox also is a Swedish company, right? And they have a massive 1-month-long holiday in the summer in Sweden. Every year, whenever this happens, there's no dev diaries, and usually they try to time the release of their DLCs either before the holiday or right after the holiday. I might be wrong about this. This is 100% speculation, obviously, but it's a logical assumption, and I personally believe that within the next month, we're gonna see the DLC released before they go on their holiday. If I'm wrong, then they're likely gonna release it after the holiday, but before PDXCon. Otherwise, there's no logical reason why they would not let people play the DLC at PDXCon, considering that they already showed us all the mission, they already showed us all the stuff that will be happening in the DLC itself, and there's just like fragments of little crumbs left to talk about the next DLC, essentially. Now, they also show us the new reforms for the monarchies, the theocracies, and the republics. In the Norwegian dev diary, they actually showed us some of the reforms, and they scrapped most of those, so these are the brand new reforms, the latest iteration of the reforms. Tier 2 for the monarchy has some interesting ones. We got national manpower increase, tax increase, fort maintenance minus 20, and army tradition plus 0.25, as well as manpower in true faith provinces, or primary culture provinces, my bad. They're decent, not amazing, but they're decent. Then for tier 3, we have prosperity growth 0.5, massively underrated. This privilege right here is really great, by the way, and dev cost efficiency minus 5 is again really great, so this is probably going to be my favorite tier 3 reform. Culture conversion cost is amazing if you want to go for a 1 culture world conquest run, or you just want to convert everybody to your main culture. State maintenance minus 33 is great as well, and you have access to age unique state edicts. So this right here, I don't know what the new state edicts are, but this tells me that we're gonna get state edicts that are age unique in the next DLC. So that's probably gonna be in one of the dev diaries to come. I'm not gonna show all of the reforms because there's a lot of them. I'm just gonna talk about the ones that are really interesting, like the yearly army tradition decay minus 0.3%. They say minus 3% here, but I'm assuming that they mean 0.3%. Otherwise, otherwise this is ridiculously overpowered and broken. Tier 5 reforms, we got Unrest and Separatism reduction. Liberty, Desire, and Subject's not bad. So these are basically highly situational depending on what kind of country you're playing as and what kind of playthrough you're doing. I like this because the new reform system essentially means that whatever type of a run you have the reforms to help you in that run. Be it a playing run, being a playing wide, being a role play as a theocracy or whatever, you have the specific reforms for that. Core creation cost on your tier 6 reforms. Possible policies great as well. War score versus other religions right over here. This is amazing too. Monarchies also get up to tier 10 reforms now, and the last tier gives you free policies +1, or you can choose to go for admin efficiency if you don't want the free policies. Both of these are amazing. Admin efficiency is great if you're doing a world conquest. If you're not, then I would definitely go for the free policies in return. The republics get 12 tiers now, by the way. It's not 10 anymore. They increased it by 2. There's again a lot of new ones here that are shown, like the extra manpower modifier and goods produced. The sortition system, which is a new system that allows you to have a leader until he dies, basically kind of like a monarchy, but it increases the minimum threshold for the skill points of your leader by 1 each and the lifespan. So that means he's going to live a little bit longer. They mentioned that tier 11 and 12 are a work in progress, so they're not showing us what exactly they give. The theocracy gets new reforms for tier 4 to 7 here. Most of these are average at best. Some of them are really good, like we got the production efficiency, trade efficiency, domestic trade power, and dev cost reduction privileges here, or better yet, not privileges, they're reforms. So if you're excited about the new DLC and the new patch, let me know in the comments. I am super excited for it, and if you have any suggestions about what they should do, add or redo or rebalance, also let me know in the comments. I will try to address these kind of issues maybe in the next and final video about the next patch. And until the next time, check out this awesome France video. And I want to give a massive thank you to all of my patrons, channel members, and Twitch subscribers. I would not be able to do this without all your support. If anybody else would like to also support me, you will find the links in the description.